Okay, so Varun, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into the restaurant hospitality industry?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started my professional career at Intuit.
Cool.
It was Intuit's known for their software like QuickBooks,
Absolutely.
TurboTax. I was on the strategic partnerships team there, but I've always been an entrepreneur. So I actually started my business outside of Intuit called Noble. It was a mobile ordering application used in live events and hospitality. So think about it that you're watching a basketball game and you don't want to stand in the concession line. You can order right from your seat.
Oh, wow.
And so we partnered with over 100 locations directly with concessionaire groups. So I really got to understand the hospitality industry and specifically ordering technology and how much evolution is happening on the ground. But that sometimes doesn't always translate into the operations, and that's
Sure.
where the real rubber hits the road with how do you make technology work with operations and real estate that was built before this technology. And so that was an exciting challenge that we took on, and flash forward after a pandemic, after surviving a pandemic, we came out of it stronger, and GRUBBRR looked at our company and said, hey, there's a match here. We sell kiosks. You have a great mobile ordering application. Why don't we acquire you? And so that's the story, and that's how I'm here today.
That's how you ended up here.
Yeah.
Awesome. You brought this up a little bit, so I just want to dig a little deeper into it. How has the restaurant and hospitality industry evolved over the past, say, decade, which obviously is going to include COVID and what happened with that? And what do you think the real driving factors behind these changes were?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit one of those. COVID was a huge driving factor, right? One of the insights that I had when I started Noble was that a lot of these operators, looked at technology like order ahead as a nice to have, as an amenity to offer customers.
Right.
Once the pandemic happened, it almost forced operators to rethink their business and adopt technology in a frequency that they've never adopted it before.
Right.
And so with that, I think that a lot of these hospitality locations, restaurants are now open to technology as they see the benefits of it. And with COVID also brought the Great Resignation, right? A lot of people that were in those jobs don't want those jobs anymore, and it's almost like the industry is going through a rethinking of the employees and the experience that the customers are having. And I think technology is at the forefront of that change.
Absolutely, but it almost feels like, which I know has happened in a lot of industries, it kind of feels like the technology was there and we were kind of going in this direction anyway and would have gotten there eventually, but because of COVID and what happened with COVID, it kind of sped us up to get there much faster than we would have otherwise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's something that I saw firsthand when Noble was pre-pandemic. It was like great. Maybe we'll look at it. And after the pandemic, it was we had more restaurants and merchants coming to us because they needed some type of ordering technology.
Right. Absolutely. So, it plays into this a little bit, but other than that aspect of kind of the COVID part of it,
Yep.
how do you kind of feel consumer preferences and behaviors have kind of shaped the transformation of the industry as it relates to technology and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think consumers, especially as we shift more and more away from the baby boomers and more into the younger millennial generation, it's almost now, I would say, an expectation that these types of, whether you're a live events venue or a restaurant, that if you don't have some type of digital ordering on site,
Right.
That you're looked at almost behind the times, right? And I would almost think about it like this. Think about it when the internet evolved, right?
Right.
If you didn't have a website, if you didn't have an email, if you didn't have an online presence, you don't really, your business was suffering, right? And I think a lot of people would look at that as they're behind the times, right? And I think that's where we are today. And I think leading the kiosk team, which is what I do now today,
Right.
We're seeing a lot more merchants and restaurants are looking to meet the expectation that their customers now have, and that's really revolves around digital ordering.
Gotcha. What do you think some of the most significant challenges facing the restaurant industry are today?
Yeah, I mean, I hear it all the time from my sales team. It's the number one is finding staff. It is so difficult to find staff to fill those most important positions, like a cashier position. We're seeing minimum wage increases happening from various states, California being one of the top ones that I think they're almost at $20 an hour.
Right.
And when you're talking about restaurants that are trying to balance their business on really small margins, that's a dangerous game. And so I think that's why we're seeing such an increase in awareness and folks that are considering kiosks to bring into their business to help supplement some of those issues that they're seeing today.
Other than that side of it, the technology side, are you seeing any other notable trends, and maybe it's influenced by the technology we're talking about, any trends or innovations in restaurant design and layout that have kind of gained prominence more recently, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can think back to one of our merchants that we had onboarded. They own a juice and nutrition shop, and they went totally cashless,
Oh, wow.
which was really interesting. And I was able to visit one of their locations, and the way that I would describe it is, you know, you walk up and you have a beautiful screen with beautiful pictures. You know exactly what you're ordering, and you can order at your own pace. And behind that kiosk, you see all of the workers, and they're more of an assembly line. So
Right.
in my mind, I think that I'm seeing restaurants think about how do we become more efficient, how do we deliver a great customer experience, and I think that again revolves around the adoption of technology and moving with the times.
Right. And so, I mean, that's coming about because there's an increased emphasis, obviously, on contactless dining and payment options.
Yep.
How are they kind of addressing those needs? Other than technology, you think they're more kind of all going in that direction because of it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, you know, we've almost ripped a Band-Aid and we can't put it back on. It's,
Right.
you know, this is the new normal, right? I mean, it's QR codes, it's contactless ordering, and it's kiosks. I mean, that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where GRUBBRR comes in, obviously.
Yep.
So how long has GRUBBRR been in the business? A little background. I know you haven't been here the whole time. As you said, your
Yeah.
company got acquired by them. But how long have they been in the business of the self-ordering systems?
Yeah, so I'm coming up on my 1 year here at GRUBBRR. GRUBBRR has been around, I believe, for the last 4 or 5 years. They definitely are one of the key players in the industry, meaning that they got in so early, similar to my company, Noble,
Right.
where it was such a nascent technology, and when you're dealing with something really brand new and changing the way that people operate, it takes a little longer, obviously, but the benefit of being early is you really learn and can perfect your product.
Right.
And I think that's what we've done. We've been able to get into the market early enough where we sat down with our restaurants, sat down with our merchants, understood their operations, and built features in our technology to really support those types of operations. Whether you're, you know, a burrito or Mexican restaurant, or you know, you're a nutrition shop, you know, we built a kiosk to really support any type of model.
Perfect. That kind of leads into the next question, which are, what are some of those key features or functionalities that GRUBBRR self-ordering systems and the digital kiosk software have for the restaurants?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, I would say one of our key features that a lot of restaurants love is our automated upsell. So this is, you know, think about it when, you know, you or I, we go to, you know, a McDonald's or any type of fast food place or quick service restaurant. You know, we rely on the cashier to maybe ask us, like, do you want fries? Do you want to add something to that? Personally, I rarely get asked that question, and I think to myself, if I was owning this place, like, how many upsells is my cashier missing, right?
Right.
And so I would say that's one key feature in our kiosk, where if you're ordering your meal, it will know exactly what upsell to prompt you with at that point of checkout. If you already have that item in your cart, it'll go to the next upsell item and ask you that. So
Right.
in general, I would say this has been a popular feature because on average, a lot of these restaurants are seeing about a 15% lift in average order size, and
Right.
that's directly contributed to the automated upsell feature.
Amazing. So not, you don't have to name names or anything, but can you share maybe some success stories or case studies, better yet, where the GRUBBRR solutions have significantly benefit clients? Obviously, you just pointed out one now with that upsell feature, but
Yeah, like the client themselves. So BurgerFi, for example,
Okay.
they are one of our premier clients. They have, I believe, over 120 locations
Right.
across the U.S. I believe we have a case study that talks directly, quoted from their CFO, about how the financial impact has helped their business from cutting down on labor costs.
Right.
Right. Your kiosk isn't also going to call in sick. It's going to be there every day. It's
Absolutely.
dependable.
Right.
And the upsell, right? We saw, I believe it was 50% of the people that use the kiosk also use the upsell.
Wow.
So we're seeing that upsell feature really stick as
Right.
people are using
You
it.
talk about 120 locations. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? Sure adds up. How do you guys stay up to date with the emerging technology trends and incorporate them into your solutions?
Yeah, I mean, we have an incredible development team. Actually, one of our our CTO at Noble is now leading a lot of the initiatives
Oh,
here
wow.
at
Okay,
GRUBBRR. And because of that, I get a little sneak peek at what they're doing. And so, I've seen some amazing things like incorporating the Amazon Palm Reader into our kiosks.
Oh, wow.
So scan your palm, it'll know who you are, it'll place your order. I've also, seen in the back room their use of AI, right? So how can we use AI, whether it's our menu boards, to understand it's cold outside today? Let's make sure coffee and hot chocolate are on
Right.
top of the board, right? I've also seen AI through the lens of our, drive-through, right? How can we have an AI animated bot
Right.
take your order, right? These are all things that we don't necessarily have today, but we're working on it because we know that's the future, and we're evolving with that.
Gotcha. So you're obviously, and the staff is obviously going to be pretty tech savvy and very familiar with the technology that you're talking about. But a lot of the people that you're going to, a lot of your clients, a lot of the restaurants, they may be a little more old school. Maybe they've been around a while. They're used to doing things their own way. So what type of support and training does GRUBBRR provide to its clients during and, as importantly, after the implementation of the solutions?
Yeah, great question. I think that is almost a hesitation from a buyer standpoint. I've been doing things the same way for the last 30 years, and now I have technology. It's a little daunting, and it can be. I would say two things. One, we built the technology in a way to be very intuitive.
Cool.
Right. So right off the bat, we've sat down with our restaurants as we were building the product to really build it for them.
Right.
And once we were able to really have confidence in our UI and UX and the user experience element of it and the operations in the back end, from there it's more about how do we support them from materials such as our knowledge base. So they have special access to our knowledge base that has videos on everything from how to set it up to how to set your features up. And then we have additional support where they can call in and our support team will manage a lot of the things like creating a menu, uploading images, and typically what we see is they'll use that that lifeline, if you will, for the first time, and then after that they're like, this is really easy, I don't
Right.
need to be calling you, I can do this myself.
Okay, well, that kind of leads to the next question, which is what ways can the self-service kiosks be customized to meet the specific needs and, as importantly, the branding of the restaurants that you're working with?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, I think that the way that we built this is to really try to personalize these kiosks as much as we can. We know that a lot of these restaurants, they take pride in their brand and their hard work, and they want that to be shown on everything. And so the kiosk is a beautiful screen where you can have a screensaver. A lot of these restaurants will put a screensaver together, and it'll have their restaurant, their brand, their logo. It'll have pictures of their food, and it basically entices that customer
Sure.
to step up to the screen. Versus waiting in a line, right? And so that's one element of it. I would say that screen and that display, we've also seen restaurants monetize, meaning that they've gone to brands and advertisers,
Right.
and they've gone and said, hey, do you want placement on this screen? We can charge you for a month, and you can be our sponsor for the month. And I think that's really creative, and a lot of our savvy business
Right.
restaurant owners are doing
A whole
that.
separate revenue stream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So how does the GRUBBRR handle integration with the other restaurant management systems, such as a POS system or inventory management software?
Yeah, we have several integrations, and I would say as we started the company, and I'll speak on behalf of the founders here, but as they started the company, one of the key things they realized is that there are these different point of sales, and integration is important. So what we did is we focused on the key point of sales that are focused in the restaurant industry. So like NCR, we have an integration with. Micros, we have an integration with. Clover, we have an integration with. Toast and Square. So we really have spent, or the dev team has really spent time on making sure that we can seamlessly integrate into these point of sales and create one system for that merchant versus having these separate systems across the board.
Gotcha. You brought up BurgerFi as one of the premier obviously clients that you have, which is fairly large business. But I'm assuming a lot of the companies that you work with, especially when you start with them, are smaller ones that maybe have only a few locations. So can you give us an example of the scalability of the GRUBBRR solutions for clients with the different business sizes and needs?
Yeah, I mean, I think the system itself can scale with your business in terms of our menu items. You can input as many as 400 to 500 menu items into the kiosk if you'd like. The architecture of the software is built to just scale, right? And so whether you have 1 or 2 locations and you scale to 20, the kiosk is just going to be, it's like flipping a switch. You just add another kiosk.
Right.
And it's the sign up process for that. It already knows that this is part of, Bob's Taco and company. And you can then segment and name those kiosks under that Bob's Taco company.
Gotcha.
And so it's very, very easy.
So as the business grows, it's going to grow with you.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the cost effectiveness of implementing GRUBBRR solutions compared to traditional ordering methods. You kind of got into this a little bit earlier, but let's get into that a little deeper now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about just from the basic standpoint of a cost of an employee and how much that cashier costs, you're paying their salary, you're paying health benefits, you're paying for paid vacation.
Right.
So all of those elements really do add up. And when you look at a kiosk here, when we looked at those expenses and looked at the kiosk, you're saving as an operator roughly about $6,000 a month, right?
Right.
And you're getting efficiency that you wouldn't necessarily get from a human. Let's face it, right? I mean, automation is always going to be more efficient than a human.
Absolutely.
Right, and we see that with the automated upsells again, right? Always being asked, and so yeah, I would say that's really one of the key selling points is the cost and the efficiency that a kiosk brings is much more superior than trying to find a cashier for that role.
Absolutely. So just to kind of sum up, what would you kind of consider the primary value propositions that you believe GRUBBRR offers to its clients in the self-ordering system and digital kiosk software space?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as 3 pillars, right? 1, making more money, right? And that is something that we track from the data side. We make more money because people in general order more through digital channels. This isn't just the case at GRUBBRR. If you look at any case study, whether it's McDonald's, Burger King, whatever, digital ordering brings in more orders because people are viewing it on their phone. They see pictures. They're not stressed that somebody's in line trying to they have that time, so they add that extra item. Now if you add in automated upsells and all of that, you can now see why average order sizes are going up digitally. So that's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is, I would say, is really the cost of labor, right? Implementing a kiosk in those roles that are very mundane and really just task oriented, like a cashier, you're literally saving $6,000 a month.
Right.
And so there's your second pillar, is saving money. So you have making money, saving money, and I would say the third pillar, which I actually think is one of the most important, is really revolves around guest experience.
Absolutely.
Right? You have guests that are now walking in to your facility where maybe last week they went into one that didn't even have a cashier and it was so seamless and they're able to order digitally or order on their phone and walk in, pick up their order. And that experience that you deliver to them is going to be locked into their mind, and that is going to allow them to want to return. versus they walk in and they got to stand in a line and wait, and it's just unorganized, and it might just be like the old way is just not cutting it anymore.
Right.
You know, and that's really my take on it.
Got to go where the technology
Yeah.
takes you.
Yeah. So guest experience is that last pillar.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for talking to us today, and look forward to talking again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Varun.
Thanks.